Vital Intellect presents Royal Jelly. Chapter 8, Spermatheca, Part 2.
In the dark, I held the line, stone-faced, blood-warm, born to climb.
2 days have passed, and Mike is again absent from the gym. The following day, many from Athena's gym are going to the arena on a planned trip. There are a few championship qualifiers at the end of the event everyone's excited to see. They arrive downtown at the arena. It is the first time Athena has been here since her qualifier with Criminal. She feels out of her body as she steps through the large open glass doors at its front. Her and her team make their way through a maze of escalators and hallways to their seating section. They are close to the arena floor. The seats are very good and must have been expensive. Athena sits down next to Chino. She leans towards him and says, "Wow, these are nice." Chino turns to her and says, "Compliments of Tigress." A shock runs through Athena, and she asks, "Tigress? Why?" Chino shrugs his shoulders and responds, "I don't look a gift horse in the mouth, but I think it's you. We ran into each other at the warehouse and started talking about tonight's games. She mentioned you came to her about being taken off the card that one night. She seemed to feel bad about it, then later she sent me an email saying she upgraded our seats. This doesn't feel right to Athena. This is a gracious and expensive gift, even for an arena fighter like Tigress. Why is she being so nice to her?" Athena turns to Chino again and says, "Wow, that's something. She didn't have to do all of that." One of the other trainers from the gym, sitting on Athena's right, joins the conversation, saying, "Well, she's also competing tonight. There are a few other gyms that fight in her league down here too. Maybe she just wants a cheering section." Chino shrugs again, responding, "Could be." Just then, the announcer's voice blares across the sound system, announcing the beginning of the night's games. The fanfare is fantastic, especially from their seats. The holographic light show has improved so much over the last few years, with new technologies allowing objects within the show to appear nearly real. A giant woman leans towards Athena's section, smiling widely with skin glowing a beautiful violet hue. The apparition is as inspiring as it is frightening. After the stellar opening, things quiet for a moment, and the announcer introduces the first game. It's the execution of a group of slaves poised as a monster hunt. They throw in a group of unarmed slaves with abominations, beasts from across the world, and even creatures from other, neighboring planets and star systems. These more gruesome events are always held early, so if attendees don't want to participate in these guaranteed gorefests, all they need to do is arrive late. After the initial games, one of the first qualifiers starts. The game is a monster-slaying competition. The arena is split into two, with one competitor on each side. On each side, a set number of monstrosities are released, and it is up to the competitors to kill them all. Whoever kills all their monsters first or survives the barrage wins. Competitors are allowed to bring in one weapon, excluding explosives or projectile weapons with high velocity or energy rounds. The lights dim in lieu of the first competitor's introduction. The sound of a sensual guitar solo goes into the sudden explosion of horns, trumpeting a high-energy tune. A volley of fireworks ignite around the entranceway as the competitor appears. She stands there, wearing a top hat and a long, bouncy dress. She wears black leather gloves that go up to her elbows and clash with her earth-toned dress with hippie-like textures and patterns. She wears an eclectic assortment of necklaces and bracelets that speak to a low-brow yet unique personality. Athena recognizes her as Fruere, a formidable arena fighter that has recently grown in popularity. She lets out a high-pitched squeal of excitement, shooting one hand in the air and posing for the crowd. The crowd reacts with cheer and applause. Fruere begins to make her way down the runway to the center of the arena by skipping along, interacting with the crowd with excited gestures and howls of exhilaration. Right after, her assistant and recent partner of sorts emerges. He's a man who calls himself The general. A large man with a black, curly mane. He is middle-aged, shirtless with a large pot belly protruding. His facial expression speaks confidence and aggression, but with an almost comical undertone. The tip of his beard is adorned into a long braid, held together with jewels and string. He carries a large wooden mallet. The general is a warrior from another game. It is a game that is more popular outside of the kingdom. It is a very brutal and violent competition, often between large men who have unnaturally enhanced their bodies for performance. Frere and the general first partnered during a cross-promotion, but continued to appear together in each other's respective games. As the pair enter their sectioned-off part of the arena, the lights dim again, and a woman's voice says over the loudspeaker, "Dreams do come true." The voice is followed by a sudden flash of white light that dims down to a purple hue. An entrance on the other side of the arena is circled by spotlights. On a large screen above the entrance is a silhouette of a woman posing dynamically. Her head is in profile, and her forehead rests on one of her fists. Her other arm shoots upward in the opposite direction. The crowd, recognizing the silhouette, begin to cheer and clap as a song with hard-hitting bass begins to play. From behind the screen and lights emerges Epiphany. She struts out onto the walkway draped in confidence. The steely look in her eyes reinforces her self-assured gait. She breaks character and smiles at the cheering crowd, waving. She then strikes the same pose she did behind the screen, and the audience stands and cheers. One of the trainees in Athena's group shrugs and criticizes, "I don't know why she's so popular, she can barely fight." Chino answers, "I know what you mean, but there's a lot more to the arena than just fighting." "Yeah, like shaking your ass to distract your opponents," one of the other trainers remarks, causing everyone to laugh. Athena gets everyone's opinions of Epiphany, but she likes her anyway. She has a drive and ferocity that she relates to. Plus, despite the fact she is in a male-dominated space that demands toughness, she keeps an exceptionally soft, feminine style to her appearance and the way she carries herself. Once Epiphany enters her part of the arena, the announcer introduces both opponents and their stats. Frere has been around a bit longer, this being her third or fourth season in the arena games. Epiphany, on the other hand, has just finished her rookie season and is now entering her second. Frere is the favorite to win tonight, but Epiphany's star has risen rapidly, winning several games last season that proved to be upsets. Both women are often compared to each other because of their similar style of dress and performance. Though, today, Epiphany has traded her usual oversized neon-colored sweatshirts, headband, acid-washed jeans, and myriads of eclectic jewelry for a sleek, form-fitting black outfit. The shirt is sleeveless, and the synthetic pants leave nothing to the imagination. Athena is relieved to see her wearing authentic tactical boots instead of her usual knockoffs with extended heels. She never could understand how anyone would or could compete in those. The outfit is completed with one large silver cross worn around her neck. Both competitors stand in the center of their respective spaces for the competition. Each area is walled off. The announcer goes on to explain the rules. There will be 3 waves of monsters released to either side. Whoever finishes all waves first wins. If one dies during the match, then the survivor wins. There is no quitting, there is no forfeit outside of death. The general hands Frere her mallet. It appears to be made out wood, having the appearance of being cheap and worn. But Athena recently learned that this outside appearance is false, that the mallet is actually steel covered by a wooden-looking skin. She takes the mallet and pretends as if she's going to hit him. He pretends to cower and leaves her section as the arena attendees close the gate behind him. On the other side, Epiphany is handed a straight long sword by an attendee. Athena finds that to be an odd choice, considering the size of the monstrosities she'll most likely face. She swings the sword around, judging its weight and checking its edge. The crowd goes quiet with anticipation. Then, over the loudspeaker, the announcer yells, "Komenzar!" Large gates open along the walls within each competitor's area. Out of each gate, a horde of chupacabras run out. The crowd chuckles at the sight. To see such a common creature in an important match is off-putting. One of the trainees within Athena's group says he killed 2 in his backyard that morning. Fruere stands in place, waits for the horde to come to her, and kills about half of them with one swing of her mallet. A couple more swings, and she takes care of the rest. On the other side, Epiphany runs towards her group of chupacabras. She dispatches one after the other. Her dispatchment takes a bit longer, considering her weapon, but proves to be more entertaining. She kills with emotion, grabbing the small monsters, only standing about 3 feet tall, by their necks and shoulders, and stabbing them through their faces, snarling while doing so. Once the chupacabras are all dead, much larger creatures come out of the gates. Now they must contend with 3 to 4 large, gorilla-like creatures with tusks protruding from their upper jaws. They gallop on all 4s towards their targets. They are joined by a pair of large lizards. From head to tail, Athena estimates they are 20 feet long apiece. They flow out of the gates like water. Their gait is eerily smooth, appearing as if they are slithering, though they run on 4 legs. Their tails, about half the length of their bodies, sway behind them as they pick up speed. Lastly, on each side an ogre comes out of each gate. They stand about 11 feet tall and possess muscular shoulders and arms despite their large bellies. They lean forward, sporting full beards, armored shoulders, and long swords glowing a fiery orange. On their backs are small humanoid creatures that resemble circus clowns, the ogre's lummox behind the large lizards. "Boy, that went from 0 to 100, Chino comments. Fruere winds up her arm, then grabs her mallet with both hands. The lizards overtake the gorilla-like monstrosities and lunge at her from either side. She hits the one on her left on its right temple, causing it to fly towards the other lizard. Both lizards collide and fall to the ground. Fruere walks up to the floored lizards and kills them with blows to the head. Then, one of the giant, tusked apes jump at her, and she swings the mallet upwards to meet its chin. Athena enjoys watching Fruere's patient approach. She notes how she always aims to take out a few monsters at once, using the minimum number of swings. Epiphany, on the other hand, gets right into the middle of things. She ran right for the group of tusked apes. As the first one reaches her, she slides on her knees, in between its legs, and cuts at its groin. The creature wails in pain as it falls to the ground, grabbing its mutilated genitals. As Epiphany rises to her feet, she is faced with another one and stabs it in the gut. She continues like this, killing all the apes and one of the lizards in succession. Watching her kill is like watching a dance. Her style is unorthodox, as if she has never been trained in combat, but effective nonetheless. When it comes to the ogre, Epiphany faces it and stands her ground. The ogre looks down at her and laughs, lifting its glowing sword high in the air. It swings its sword, and Epiphany runs right under it before it connects. She reaches its left leg and stabs it in the knee. The creature wails. Epiphany removes the blade and slices just below its other kneecap. The ogre falls to its hands, and she stabs it through the side of its head. The clown-like creature on its back yells with rage and pulls out a pistol and points it at Epiphany. Before the creature could fire, Epiphany throws her blade at it, and it penetrates its neck. Athena jumps at the ferocious kill. Even though she is excited by the action, a feeling of sorrow starts to take over. She regrets that it is not her in the arena, destroying these monsters. She pushes down the feeling and continues to watch. Both women have cleared this wave of monsters. Fruere is wiping some of the gore off her mallet on the arena floor while Epiphany bounces in place, catching her breath. The gates open again, letting out the next and final wave. First, a giant two-legged creature emerges. It has a crown of two immense horns, so large the creature must bend down to fit through the gate opening. Around its waist it wears a heavy metallic belt, appearing to be a sort of copper and iron alloy. It is held up by two chain links that go over the creature's massive shoulders like overall straps. The creature is otherwise nude, so Athena has a hard time putting together the point of the large metal belt other than some sort of constraint or perhaps a peculiar piece of armor. It carries a giant hammer that resembles a two-sided smithing hammer. Its face resembles a short-faced dog, filled with fur surrounding a black snout. It would almost look cute if it wasn't for its intimidating posterior and menacing expression. They both let out an ear-piercing roar and walk into the arena. These creatures are then followed by an equally large but contrasting pair of foes. They are giant battle robots. They each have two slender rockets for legs leading up to a flexible waist joint. Their thin midsections hold up robust thoraxes adorned with a cross-like star emblem, all sides of equal length. Their heads resemble a small jet plane, with wing-like protrusions possessing sleek lines and curves. The machines each hold a sword and shield that match their body's futuristic aesthetic, both body and weapons colored a matted white with blue trim patterned throughout. The crowd reacts in silent awe at the machines as they power on their thrusters and glide forth into the arena. The pair of machines are followed by several humanoids. Athena recognizes them to be an extraterrestrial race known as the Gigons. While they're only about 5 feet tall, on their planet, they tower over nearly every other creature. Athena does not like this part of the arena games, where other intelligent beings are treated as monstrosities simply because they are not human or are from another planet. The Gigans have history, culture, dreams, and desires. But the kingdom and other nations of her world will raid theirs and bring back these aliens as slaves and oddities to be displayed as zoo animals and even pets. The Gigons resemble humans with furless skin and similarly structured faces. Their limbs stretch far longer than a human's, and their torsos are elongated. Their backs curl over like a frightened cat, and while they can stand on 2 legs, they often are hunched over and move on all 4s. They are adorned in cloth head wraps that would keep them guarded from their hot sun on their mostly desert planet. They wear an assortment of beaded jewelry, and each have a scimitar-like sword harnessed to their sides. They each wear an off-white garment, a cloth that covers their waist area similar to a woman's dress, but made of a much weightier material. Some have dagger-like blades strapped to their elbows. The Gigons group together, unsheathing their swords and looking forward at their targets with a sense of ferocity. As the battle robot on Fruer's side begins to reach her, she retreats behind the dead bodies of the tusked apes. The robot hovers in place for a moment, then lifts its sword up to begin cutting through the bodies. As the robot distracts itself trying to reach her, Fruer takes advantage and throws the glowing orange sword from the ogre at it. The sword hits the machine in its midsection, penetrating it. The robot whirs and clicks awkwardly as it falls out of the sky. It drops its shield and attempts to stand. Fruer then runs in and cocks back her mallet. Her mechanical opponent sees her coming and attempts to raise its weapon in defense. Before it could attempt a strike, Fruer reaches it and knocks its sword out of its hand. She then hits it across its head, knocking the head clear off its body. The machine falls and the crowd explodes with cheer. The large creature with the dog-like face closes in. Fruer runs to the downed robot's sword and struggles to hoist the weapon, twice her size, up at an angle. She angles the sword at the hammer-wielding monster, and it uses its hammer to knock the sword out of the way. It then swings its hammer at Fruer as she scurries to safety, her top hat falling off in the process. She then grabs the robot's shield and flings it at her horned enemy. It hits the creature in the ankle. Howling in pain, It goes to its ankle and Fruere picks up her mallet. She throws the mallet at the monster's head and connects. It holds the side of its face, dropping its hammer in reaction. It stands and rushes at Fruere in a fit of rage. Fruere runs to the downed robot, pulls out the glowing sword, and swings it across the horned monster's midsection. The sword scrapes across its metallic belt, causing no damage. The strike, though, stopped the monster's momentum enough for Fruere to follow up her attack and stab it through its gut, just below its belt. The creature moans sorrowfully, falling to one knee. Before Fruere has an opportunity to finish off the creature, the Gigans rush her. Unarmed, she falls into a fighting stance, allowing the first Gigan to come in close. As it runs in and attempts to cut her down with an overhead slash, Fruere palms the sword's hilt, twists the alien's wrist, causing it to drop its weapon, then flips it onto its back. Another follows, and she punches it in the face as it winds back its sword. She then strikes it in the throat, causing it to gag, then collapse. Another comes in low, attempting to stab her in the gut with an upward thrust. Fruere dodges the attack, grabs the alien's arm, contorting it to the point of breaking. As she does this, the final Gigan comes from behind her and slices the back of her lower leg. Fruere screams in pain and lets go of the other. The one that sliced her leg comes in for another attack, and she counters it and flips it to the ground, using its momentum against it. The crowd is going crazy around Athena, everyone standing to their feet, cheering her on. Fruere limps away from the aliens, picking up one of their swords on the way. The general, on the sidelines, opens his eyes wide and marches towards the gate's entrance, looking to join his partner. Several arena attendants stop him, attempting to reason with him as he tries to push past them. He then slaps one in the face. While several attendants struggle with the general, an arena guard comes up from behind and tases him, causing him to fall to one knee. Fruere then screams something to the general, but Athena can't make it out over the noise of the crowd around her. Whatever she did yell at the general, he nods his head at her, closing his eyes, and concedes. The two remaining Gigans run for Fruere, and she hobbles towards and around the bodies of the giant tusked apes, forcing the aliens to chase her around the hulking corpses. Fruere then yells something at Epiphany, appearing to be some sort of demand. Athena, so caught up in the action on Fruere's side, has not been paying attention to Epiphany's. She's already downed the flying robot and all but one Gigan. Her giant, dog-like creature stands a bit of a distance away while Epiphany fences with the last Gigan. After a fierce exchange, Epiphany finally bests the alien warrior and cuts him down. The furry giant then goes on the offensive, approaching Epiphany with his hammer raised above his head. Epiphany looks up at the monstrosity with fear. He brings down his hammer where she stands, and she barely manages to jump out of the way. The giant then looks at his opponent, takes his hammer, still on the ground, and yanks it towards Epiphany. She tries to run out of the way, but the hammer connects. She flies from the impact, landing on the ground face down. The crowd moans for her. Surprisingly, she begins to lift herself up. She doesn't appear injured, rather, she's infuriated. She stands tall, her eyes focused on the hammer-wielding beast. She takes several steps forward, her chest puffed out, her expression determined. The monster lets out a menacing growl and marches towards his adversary. When the abomination hit her with its hammer, it caused her to drop her sword. Instead of going for her weapon, which now lays in harm's way, Epiphany grabs the cross that's around her neck. She removes the large silver cross and holds it in two hands, pulls it apart, and reveals a hidden blade. The monster's walk turns into a trot as it lifts its hammer and roars. Then, Epiphany roars back. The creature stops in confusion, looking at Epiphany with a perplexed expression. The creature shakes himself and moves towards her again. Epiphany roars again, and the creature halts its momentum, staring at her in uncertainty. Epiphany then approaches the creature, gripping her blade tight. She then screams at the monster at the top of her lungs. It flinches, but then seems to come to its senses. It looks down at his opponent and roars back. It lifts its hammer high in the air and brings it down on her. She dodges the blow, moving to her left, then stabs the monster in its extended arm. He screams in pain. She then removes the blade, jumps onto the creature's arm, runs up it, and stabs the beast in one of its eyes. It stands, howling in pain. Epiphany holds onto the creature's fur to avoid being thrown from it and continues to stab. She stabs it in its other eye, its nose, then across its face. The monster continues to scream in pain as she penetrates its face over and again. The beast pedals back while Epiphany continues her assault. Eventually, the monster succumbs and falls on its back. It writhes on the floor as her assault continues, then suddenly it goes spread eagle, becoming motionless. Still, Epiphany continues to stab. Her face is filled with rage, screaming as loud as she can. On the other side of the arena, Frere becomes relieved. She then screams something at one of the attendants. The attendant, locked onto the action from Epiphany's side, looks as if he's woken out of a sleep, then nods at Frere. He turns towards a booth full of attendants and yells while waving his hands. One of the attendants nods, then radios something in. The announcer comes on, announcing Epiphany as the winner. The creatures who were still attacking Frere stop their assault and walk away, going back into the gate they came from. Frere, holding onto her wounded leg, twists her expression at the retreating monsters and sticks up her middle finger at them. Meanwhile, Epiphany has stopped stabbing the furry beast. She stands atop its chest, looking down at it. She flips her short, curly blonde hair back and jumps off the corpse's chest. The gate opens on Frere's side, and the general comes rushing in with a doctor behind him. He runs up to Frere, eyes wide, and grabs her by her shoulders. He wears a concerned look and is asking about her well-being. Frere closes her eyes and nods, embracing the general back. The doctor rushes to her and tends to her wounded leg. "Not bad," Chino says to Athena, and she nods in agreement. Just then, the announcer comes on and explains to the crowd that the judges decided since Epiphany illegally brought in a second hidden weapon, she is disqualified. The announcer then names Frere as the winner by default. Athena looks at Epiphany for her reaction and just sees her standing still and stiff. Her face is expressionless, but her eyes dart around frantically. She then puts her nose in the air and struts out of the arena. Athena then looks at Frere and sees her shrugging her shoulders. The general holds one of her hands in the air in victory. The crowd mostly cheers, but Athena can also hear the murmurs of some of Epiphany's fans, unhappy with the results. Frere smirks, holds her shoulders up shyly, and waves at the crowd reluctantly. An intermission starts for the arena floor to be cleared. Athena goes to use the bathroom. On the way back to her seat, she believes she sees Mike Pena walking down a hallway opposite her. The hallway is crowded, and the person has already moved out of sight, so she doesn't pursue him and continues back to her seat. When she sits back down, one of her fellow trainees taps her on the shoulder from behind and informs her that Tigress's match is up next. Athena tells the trainee she knows, and she sits back in her chair. She looks out at the arena floor and sees a black spire standing several stories tall. She recognizes the contraption and knows the next event will be a race to the top of it. The two opponents are announced and come out to the arena floor with several of their attendants. On the right is Tigress. She is wearing her signature tank top, but covered over by a tight-fitting red tactical jacket. She also wears a tactical scanner over one eye, strapped to her head like an eye patch. On her hands are black, fingerless gloves. She begins to crack her knuckles while looking across the arena. On the other side, a small, slender man with a pale complexion enters the arena. He has thick, curly brown hair, framed by a widow's peak. He has an innocent, near-feminine look to him, wearing a white jumpsuit with fluorescent, angled shapes across it. Athena does not recognize him and finds him unremarkable. Then, the trainer sitting to her right taps her on the shoulder and yells, "Look!" while pointing back to Tigress's side of the arena. Athena looks to where he's pointing, and her eyes open wide. It's Mike Pena. He's standing just behind Tigress. He's one of her attendees. Athena then taps Chino to look. Chino turns and squints his eyes at Tigress's side. He then exclaims, "What the fuck?" Athena looks at him knowingly and then looks back. She then studies Mike's facial expressions, his body language. He's obviously uncomfortable. But there he is, looking around himself, taking deep, slow breaths, and clapping his hands while swinging his arms in front of himself. Athena feels concern for Mike. She then looks at Tigress, standing cool and confident. She turns and addresses her team of attendants. She has an air of arrogance around her that infuriates Athena. Once she's had enough, she stands and marches away from her seat towards the exit. "Where are you going?" Chino yells at her. She does not reply and exits the seating area. She makes her way through the maze of corridors within the arena's interior to where Tigress would be located. Once she reaches the area, she is stopped by several guards. "Move!" she screams at them as she attempts to push past. They won't let her through. She tries to fight her way past them, but they restrain her. Finally, one pushes her away, sending her back several steps. They warn her to stop, or they'll have her arrested. She steps forward to continue her assault, but then the several men step forward to meet her, verbally warning her again. "Que carajo!" she exclaims, throwing her hands up in the air. She walks away, frustrated. She decides to leave the arena, not wanting to continue watching the games. What will she do? She thinks to herself. She then wonders if she should let the situation go. Perhaps she will. Perhaps this is Mike's decision to work with Tigress. Perhaps she's overreacting. That does not feel right to her. There is something going on. Tigress is hiding something, up to something. But what? Athena decides to leave the matter alone, but will remain wary of Tigress. She thinks about the look she gave her after defeating Jessica. Also, no one can yet explain why she was removed from the card that night. If the money from her winnings weren't so good, Athena would quit the league. Working under the likes of Tigress gives her a bad taste in her mouth. But then again, perhaps that is what Tigress wants? Athena shakes her head and stops thinking about the situation. She exits the arena and goes to grab something to eat. Thank you for listening to Royal Jelly Chapter 8, Spermatheca Part 2. Tune in next time for Chapter 9, Seeking Rivals, coming soon.